Keanu Reeves misplaced his father at 3, his best friend at 29, his daughter earlier than she turned into born, his girlfriend in an automobile crash. Through it all, he stayed silent. He forgave. He moved on. But there has been one individual he couldn't forgive. One betrayal that cut too deep. It took him 60 years to mention the name out loud. Whilst he eventually did, even his closest friends have been bowled over because the character Keanu hated maximum wasn't who absolutely everyone expected. It became a person each person cherished. Keanu Reeves changed into Born on September 2, 1964 in Beirut, Lebanon. On the time, the metropolis was on the threshold of chaos. Just over a decade later, it'd be torn aside via a civil conflict that would ultimate 15 years. His mother, Patricia Taylor, became British and labored as a dressing-up clothier. His father, Samuel Reeves, became Hawaiian Chinese and a geologist. However, whatever plans that they had for a destiny together ended while Keanu was just 3 years antique. His father walked out and in no way got here again. That moment changed the whole thing. His early life became a blur of moves, adjustments, and new beginnings that by no means lasted. Via age 10, Keanu had already lived in 4 unique international locations. From Beirut to Sydney, then New York, and sooner or later Toronto. No roots, no actual friendships, simply steady motion. His mother changed into doing her nice, trying to restart their lives time and again, but every region felt temporary. School did not make things simpler. Keanu had undiagnosed dyslexia, which made reading and writing a everyday warfare. From 1979 to 1984, he went to 4 special high schools, one after the other. Etobicoke School of the Humanities, DeLisle College, Endale Secondary Alternative, and then a performing arts faculty. He could not keep up. Teachers called him lazy or distracted. File cards have been full of D's and F's. By the time he became 17, he dropped out. It gave the look of he'd failed. However, it became truly the first step closer to finding something that honestly in shape him, performing. At home, things weren't plenty great or solid. His mom's love lifestyles brought in a line of fellows who appeared like they might turn out to be father figures, however none of them stayed. One of them, director Paul Aaron, married Patricia when Keanu turned into around 11. He even tried to introduce Keanu to theater. It felt like maybe, just maybe, he had someone, but it ended in divorce. The sample repeated again and again. A brand new man, a short calm, then every other goodbye. Keanu discovered early on that the simplest person he could count on turned into himself. At 13, he had one last assembly along with his actual father. It happened in Kauai, Hawaii. They hadn't seen every different in a decade. It wasn't a warm reunion. There have been no hugs or apologies. Just a quiet, awkward meeting arranged by means of loved ones. Samuel had been drifting through life, struggling with capsules and risky jobs. The assembly ended and not using an actual connection, and Keanu in no way noticed or spoke to him again. By means of 1984, Keanu was 20 and seeking to claw his manner into acting. He took a job with CBC as an adolescence correspondent, masking activities and interviewing youngsters for local television. It paid simply $200 a week, but it gave him access to the world he certainly desired, amusement. Backstage, he turned into auditioning non-stop, taking any function he could discover. However, there was any other obstacle, his call. Retailers advised him that Keanu became too ethnic. It wouldn't work in Hollywood. They wanted him to change it. So for 2 years he went through Casey Reeves or Casey Reeves at auditions. He hated it. The call Keanu method, cool breeze over the mountains. It became a part of who he became. In 1987 he dropped the fake names and determined to simply be himself once more. Despite the fact that it intended getting fewer roles. That turned into the year he landed a function in Rivers area. It wasn't huge, but it was actual and it became his. Years earlier at DeSalle University, Keanu had performed goalie for the school hockey crew. They referred to as him the Wall due to the fact nothing were given past him. He turned into calm, centered, and unshakable. His goalie stats were sturdy, 2.1 goals against average, and he helped his team win a championship in 1982. That equal calm consciousness could later display up in his appearing. Administrators noticed it. He wasn't flashy, but whilst things were given excessive, Keanu did not crack. He wanted that focus in 1984 when he became doing the entirety he should to survive. 1 second, he turned into appearing in a cheesy Coca-Cola business, pretending to be a fab man at the beach. He made $2,500 for it. The following second he became acting Shakespeare at night without cost. He played Mercutio in Romeo and Juliet at a small Toronto theater. He gave it everything. Critics praised him, however it didn't pay the bills. He was juggling embarrassment and ardor on the equal time. That same year, he were given a small position in a low-budget Canadian show referred to as Placing In. He played a stricken teen named Wolf. It turned into speculated to be his large destroy, however it became a disaster. His performance turned into stiff. He forgot strains. It took multiple takes to get simple scenes right. He best lasted 4 episodes before they wrote him out. It shook his self-belief badly. He even taken into consideration quitting performing and going again to hockey. However instead, he stuck with it. That failure taught him something he in no way forgot. You can't fake it. You have got to reveal up, prepare, and be actual. It is that identical authenticity that later made him one of the most loved actors inside the global. Reeves landed his breakout function in a dark, traumatic film known as Rivers Area, released in 1986. It became primarily based on a real murder that stunned a small California city back in 1981. Reeves performed a quiet teen named Matt who had to decide whether to document his pal for killing his female friend. The film didn't hold again. It confirmed how numb and disconnected younger people might be. For a first big role, it changed into a volatile preference, but Keanu pulled it off. Critics praised how he stayed calm and distant on display screen like an antique film noir detective. He didn't shout or cry. Rather, he confirmed deep emotion simply through holding returned. That manipulate would later turn out to be his signature. The film gained satisfactory photo at the Impartial Spirit Awards and put Keanu on the map. Then came something nobody predicted. In 1989, Invoice and Ted's Great Journey changed the whole thing. It became loud, silly, and complete of time tour. Keanu performed Ted, a clueless, however sweet high-college slacker who just wanted to pass history. He and Alex Winter, who played Invoice, have been solid by coincidence. The script firstly imagined the characters as dorky metal heads, however when the writers noticed Keanu and Alex collectively, they rewrote the roles. The pair had such correct chemistry that they became nice buddies in real existence. The movie almost did not occur. The authentic studio went bankrupt during production. Some other corporation saved it just in time. No person notion it would work. Even the director left Metropolis on commencing weekend because he changed into scared it would flop. But audiences loved it. The $10 million film made $40 million in theaters. And suddenly Keanu changed into a comedy megastar. Humans could not forestall quoting the film. Traces like be exquisite to each different and party on dudes became a part of the way of life. Ted became easy-minded however type. And Keanu played him with general sincerity. That made him cute. Earlier than lengthy, critics who had as soon as left out him started out to pay attention. They realized he had something uncommon. He turned into magnetic on display screen. The movie led to a sequel, a caricature, a TV display, and even breakfast cereal. Extra importantly, it confirmed studios that Keanu could convey a film. That changed the entirety. At the same time as Bill and Ted made him famous, Keanu didn't just stick with comedies. Around the identical time, he took on severe roles to prove he had range. In Dangerous Lions, 1988, he acted along legends like Glenn Near and John Malkovich in a length drama set in 18th-century France. The movie cost $14 million to make and earned $34.7 million. It was nominated for 7 Oscars, along with Best Image. Keanu played a younger music teacher stuck up in a web of lies and manipulation. It became a huge bounce from Gambling Ted, and it confirmed he could take care of complex characters. He observed that with Parenthood in 1989, a heartfelt comedy drama directed by means of Ron Howard. Keanu performed a stricken however sweet young guy dating a unmarried mom. The cast blanketed Steve Martin and Rick Moranis, big names in comedy. Keanu held his own amongst them. The movie became primarily based on actual family testimonies and became nominated for 2 Academy Awards through selecting smart, serious roles in between his blockbuster comedies. Keanu earned recognition in Hollywood. However, Ted in no way certainly left him. That role did more than make human beings giggle. It formed how audiences saw Keanu. Ted wasn't clever or brave, however he changed into honest and kind. He in no way crossed moral traces. He changed into awkward, but excellent-hearted. That mix had become Keanu's trademark. He wasn't like different leading men. He wasn't trying to be macho or slick. He became relatable. He felt like a real guy. And that's why human beings connected with him. Even a long time later, Keanu stayed authentic to that picture. While he lower back for Invoice and Ted faced the song in 2020, he pushed lower back towards making the characters edgy or dark. The writers wanted to add flaws, however Keanu stated no. They wouldn't try this, he insisted. And he changed into right. Ted and Invoice were still goofy and pure, at the same time as center elderly dads. That experience of decency wasn't just a part of the function. It turned into part of Keanu. In 1991, A Abnormal Thing passed off. A film approximately financial institution robbers who surf changed into a cult conventional. Factor Smash wasn't simply another motion flick. It starred Keanu Reeves and Patrick Seas, and it remodeled $83.5 million on a $24 million budget. But behind the adrenaline, waves, and gunfights changed into something greater, something no one anticipated. Under all the movement, the film hinted at a powerful emotional pull between the 2 male leads. Critics later referred to as it the finest lady gaze motion movie ever. A few even called it a wet western. Something it became, humans couldn't prevent watching it. Reeves performed Johnny Utah, an undercover FBI agent. Seas played Bod, the zen-like surfer leading a group of financial institution robbers. On the floor, it was police officers versus robbers. However, below that become a ordinary anxiety, a deep bond that felt greater like longing than loyalty. The digicam lingered on them. The movement felt intimate. Their friendship looked more like a romance and those observed. Even the call point wreck, a browsing time period, felt like a metaphor for the emotional clash among duty and desire. Years later, The Short and the Livid might borrow the identical plot. However, it became Point Smash that did it first and did it with warmness. That identical 12 months, Reeves took a massive left flip. He co-starred with River Phoenix in My Very Own Non-Public Idaho. It became a odd, haunting story approximately male prostitutes. Phoenix played Mike, a narcoleptic hustler looking for home. Reeves performed Scott, a rich youngster slumming it within the streets earlier than returning to his privileged existence. The film valued just $2.5 million but made over $8 million and had become part of a movement called New Queer Cinema. Phoenix won Great Actor at Venice. Reeves bowled over all people by means of taking this sort of daring role. At the peak of his fame, he kissed any other guy on display screen and never once tried to provide an explanation for it away. The movie became poetic, raw, and painfully beautiful. It combined Shakespeare with Avenue life. It used dream sequences and damaged timelines. It wasn't built to be a success. It changed into built to say something. And it stated it loudly, approximately magnificence, identification, and sexuality. In 2024, the Library of Congress delivered it to the countrywide film registry. It had grown to be a permanent piece of history. However, while his famous person was growing, not anyone turned into clapping. Critics became on him. Empire magazine mocked him, saying he gave the nearest factor to a performance in his profession. CNN stated he turned into void of skills. His calm, spaced-out transport and addiction of announcing woe became jokes. Reviewers concept he become getting roles he didn't deserve. They felt he hadn't earned it yet, and that they made certain the arena knew it. Then got here Speed in 1994. The studio panicked whilst Reeves reduced his lengthy hair. They concept fanatics would not understand him, but director John Diont insisted it turned into the right circulate. Fox almost behind schedule filming. Cash ran out all through production. A few scenes had been proven to test audiences using rough tailboards, however the target market failed to care. They cherished it. Fox gave them extra cash, elevating the price range to $30 million. The film opened at primary. It made $121 million within the United States of America and $350 million international. It out-earned The Rock. It nearly beat Die Difficult with a vengeance. Reeves changed into officially a blockbuster megastar, however when offered the sequel, he stated no. That sequel, Pace 2, Cruise Manage, bombed tough, losing over $800 million. Reeves had dodged a bullet, but now not all bullets had been on screen. In 1992, Reeves starred in Bram Stoker's Dracula, directed via Francis Ford Coppola. The film looked notable on paper. Huge cast, big price range. However, Reeves's strive at a British accessory turned it into a punchline. He labored with coaches. He practiced obsessively, but the accessory came out stiff, awkward, and atypical. Coppola later said Reeves tried so tough, however just couldn't relax. The overall performance became notorious. Performing training nevertheless use it for instance of how now not to do an accent. Even though the movie did nicely, that one element haunted him. But not anything affected Reeves more than River Phoenix. They'd met in 1990 at the same time as filming I Like You to Loss of Life. They clicked. And while my personal non-public Idaho become casting, Phoenix nearly said no. Reeves wasn't having it. He jumped on his motorbike and rode over 1,300 miles from Toronto to Florida to convince him in character. I'll do it in case you do it, Phoenix instructed him. And so they each did. That kind of loyalty wasn't every day in Hollywood. Then on Halloween night in 1993, everything changed. Phoenix collapsed out of doors the Viper Room after a drug overdose. He died earlier than assist ought to reach him. He was only 23 at the time. Reeves changed into within the middle of filming Velocity. Sandra Bullock remembered it without a doubt. She said she watched him grieve in silence. He's very personal, she stated, but he could not cover that. The ache modified him. It was the kind of sorrow you don't simply walk away from. Director Jan Diont had to rearrange the complete shooting agenda. Reeves became too broken to perform on some days. He became quiet, withdrawn. Amusement Weekly ran a profile titled Keanu Reeves, the next motion famous person. But inner it instructed a story of an actor wearing something heavy. Bullock described seeing it in his eyes, a disappointment that in no way left. Phoenix's dying wasn't the beginning of loss for Reeves. It was the center of a sample. He'd already misplaced his father as a teen. He'd already acknowledged abandonment. Phoenix changed into alleged to be one of a kind, an exceptional buddy, a brother. Dropping him cracked something open. Reeves later stated Phoenix become tired. He turned into coming off film after movie. He explained, it takes lots, and it did within the thoughts and coronary heart. That understanding fashioned the manner Reeves might live. He pulled far away from Hollywood noise. He became famously personal. The man who as soon as rode a motorbike across the United States to shop a movie role now refused to talk approximately Phoenix in any respect. When requested in interviews, he regularly stops mid-sentence. He once said earlier than trailing off. He smiled and seemed down. That changed into it. He never shares the information. I'll by no means speak them, he said once. They're too non-public. He does not use Phoenix's demise for interest. He does not milk the past. But in that silence, in that refusal to give an explanation you hear the echo of something that in no way healed. A sort of loyalty you do not see in maximum stars. Keanu Reeves bowled over Hollywood in 1997 when he grew to become Down Velocity 2, Cruise Control. The original Velocity had made $350 million on a $30 million finances. Fox provided Reeves thousands and thousands to go back as Jack Traven, however he took one take a look at the script and stated no. His purpose, the film became set on a cruise ship. It's known as Pace and it is on a cruise ship. He reportedly stated cruise ships barely hit 30 miles per hour. That turned into slower than the bus inside the first movie, which needed to stay above 50. Reeves believed the entire concept was broken. The tension, the urgency that made the first film a success would disappear. Fox failed to take the rejection lightly. In fact, they blacklisted Reeves for 14 years. From 1997 to 2008, he did not work with Fox at all. The punishment became harsh and personal. They even spread rumors that he changed into skipping movies to tour with his rock band Canine Celebrity. What they failed to expect turned into that Reeves could grow to be even greater a success in the course of this exile. He starred inside the Matrix trilogy, which made him $250 million and became him into a cultural icon. Fox, in the long run, overlooked out on one in every of the most important stars of the next decade. What made Reeves's preference even more fantastic turned into what he did as a substitute. He went to Canada, not to shoot any other film, but to perform Hamlet on stage in Winnipeg. He traded a blockbuster sequel for a Shakespeare play in a modest theater. He was paid a fraction of what he might have earned from Speed 2, however he did not care. He told GQ that he desired to do something significant. In a global in which maximum actors chase repute and fortune, Reeves chose motive. In the 9s, that changed into almost unheard of. After which came the closing proof he turned into right all alongside. Pace 2 turned into a disaster. It scored just 4% on Rotten Tomatoes. Critics known as it slow, silly, and painful to observe. Even children notion it turned into dumb. Its finances spiraled from $100 million to as much as $160 million. However it handiest made $48.6 million inside the United States. It gained Worst Remake or Sequel at the Razzies and changed into nominated for Worst Photo, Worst Actress, and Worst Supporting Actor. Reeves had dodged a sinking ship literally and financially. Being blacklisted certainly gave him freedom. Loose from huge studio politics, Reeves explored new roles. He labored with formidable directors just like the Wachowskis. The Matrix changed his life, but he also took on smaller movies, playing fallacious or darkish characters. Within The Gift, he bowled over audiences via gambling and abusive husband. He even took pay cuts simply to behave along legends like Al Pacino and Gene Hackman. He wasn't chasing cash anymore. He became chasing boom. By way of 2008, Fox subsequently ended the ban. However, with the aid of then, Reeves did not want them. He had grown to be one among Hollywood's maximum respected names. Even The Matrix had a wild backstory. Reeves wasn't the primary pick for Neo. He wasn't even the second or third. He changed into the remaining lodge. The manufacturers tried everybody. Will Smith, Brad Pitt, Leonardo DiCaprio, Johnny Depp, Nicolas Cage, even Sandra Bullock. They were so determined they supplied to rewrite Neo as a girl for Bullock. One at a time, all of the big names said no. Reeves stated yes. And the end result, history. The Matrix came out in March 1999 and made $469 million on a $60 million price range. It had an 8.7 IMDb rating from over 2 million votes. It won 4 Academy Awards. It introduced bullet time to cinema. Lengthy coats and shades have become cool once more. People started talking approximately simulations and the pink pill. It wasn't only a movie. It changed into a worldwide phenomenon. However, even The Matrix had its battles. The Wachowskis had a deep concept behind the film. Inside the unique script, human beings weren't batteries. They had been processors in a neural network, a living supercomputer. The studio concept audiences would not get it, so that they modified it. Alternatively, humans had became power cells, an idea that made no actual clinical feel. Hollywood desired it easy. As an end result, the film misplaced a layer of depth. Some say we neglected out on a miles greater considerate model of the story. Then came the sequels. The Matrix Reloaded and Revolutions, both released in 2003, made big money. Reloaded earned $739.4 million globally. It broke R-rated box workplace records, however the exhilaration didn't final. The plots pressured fans. The infamous architect scene left viewers dazed. Revolutions gave no real answers. The finishing felt empty. Audiences walked out dissatisfied. Keanu later admitted he understood why humans have been disillusioned. For many fans, the sequels ruined the original magic. And for Reeves, the backlash hit hard. After the sequels, Reeves hit some other tough patch. Humans began mocking his performing once more. Critics called his performances wooden. He became seen as a fluke. Films like Feeling Minnesota, Chain Response, and The Final Time I Dedicated Suicide failed to assist. The career comeback that The Matrix gave him became beginning to fade. For over 10 years, he drifted. Hollywood moved on. Then out of nowhere came John Wick in 2014. And just like that, he was back. A new type of movement hero. Silent, lethal, and cool. Audiences cherished him once more. Reeves had survived every twist. Rejection, exile, failure. He became it all into fuel. His journey wasn't just about movies. It was approximately staying genuine to who he turned into. When others played the Hollywood sport, he walked away. When studios blacklisted him, he observed new paths. And when the world gave up on him, he came back more potent. Keanu Reeves never imagined that his largest remorse in Hollywood might come from someone he as soon as relied on. In 2000, right after the huge achievement of The Matrix, he all of a sudden determined himself locked into a film he had by no means agreed to do. It became referred to as The Watcher. And the moment he saw the agreement, something felt incorrect. He was certain he had grew to become it down, however his signature became there, legally binding him to the assignment. That signature wasn't his. It became forged. And worse, it wasn't achieved by way of a stranger. It came from a person close, someone internal his very own circle, a chum. This wasn't an easy misunderstanding or mistake. It was deliberate. This person had get right of entry to his non-public documents and used that get admission to lure him in a film he did not need to make. On the same time, Hanu became already dealing with emotional pain in his personal existence. His relationship with Jennifer Sim turned into rocky and he became suffering along with her personal troubles. Faced with this betrayal, Keanu had two selections. He may want to go to court docket, combat the agreement, and allow the battle drag on publicly. Or he could quietly go through with it and shield his peace. He chose the second one choice. He filmed The Watcher, even though the whole lot internal him stated no. The movie became a catastrophe. It made simply $29.1 million on a $30 million price range. Critics tore it apart and Rotten Tomatoes gave it an embarrassing 11%. Keanu's overall performance looked stiff and indifferent, understandably so. He didn't want to be there. He later known as the movie horrible and admitted it become a low factor in his career. The individual that cast his name was in no way found out. However, after that, Keanu modified how he handled the whole lot. Contracts, friendships, believe. It became a painful lesson in how prone even a top actor can be while the people around him determined to take advantage. On the equal time, his private lifestyles turned into falling apart. In 1998, Keanu met Jennifer Sim at a party for his band Dogar. She turned into young, just 26, and labored for director David Lynch. Their connection was immediate. They moved in collectively speedy, and inside a year Jennifer changed into pregnant with their daughter. They deliberate to name her Ava Archer Sim Reeves. However, on Christmas Eve in 1999, Jennifer went into early labor. Ava turned into nonetheless born at 8 months. What should have been the happiest time of their lives became their darkest. The grief became overwhelming. Jennifer wished medical assist and changed into handled for postpartum melancholy. The ache became too heavy. Their relationship began to disintegrate in the weeks after Ava's death. Keanu saved his distance but never definitely left her side. They stayed close. He desired to assist her heal. Jennifer, however, became to partying and alcohol. She spiraled. But in early 2001, they had began to reconnect. They have been attempting again. On April 1st, they even had brunch together in San Francisco. The next day, she became gone. That night, Jennifer went to a celebration at Marilyn Manson's house. She were given inebriated and Manson had someone force her home. However, later that night, for motives no person absolutely is familiar with, she decided to pressure herself returned. She crashed her Jeep on Kahina Side Road. She wasn't carrying a seatbelt. She died on effect. She was 28. When Keanu could not reach her the following morning, he known as the coroner's office and requested if she become there. The crash research exposed darkish info. Jennifer had prescription medicinal drugs in the automobile. She also had rolled up dollar payments with white powder. Her mother instructed police she was struggling with depression and pain from a beyond automobile crash. She had also just lost her grandfather a month in advance. All that grief piled up. The lawsuit her mom filed against Marilyn Manson failed to pass everywhere, however nothing should undo what had already came about. For years, Keanu stayed quiet. His career cooled down. After The Matrix, he starred in several films that failed to paintings. The Lake House, The Day the Earth Stood Nevertheless, Henry's Game. Via 2014, Hollywood had almost written him off. He changed into 50 and those notion his time had exceeded. Then got here John Wick. No person expected it to be successful. It had a small budget, handiest approximately 20 to 30 million. Lionsgate failed to even buy the movie until 2 months earlier than it came out, however the movie exploded. It made $86 million. Critics loved it. The function in shaped Keanu perfectly. Quiet, calm, deadly. The director and writer constructed the individual around him. They stored the talk brief and targeted on his presence. It worked. Human beings saw him in a brand new light. That film gave Keanu his second life in Hollywood. These days, John Wick has made over 1 billion greenbacks across the franchise. He's predicted to seem in at least 6 films as the man or woman. It became the most a success role of his complete career. But not every person noticed his achievement with kindness. In 2022, Matthew Perry randomly attacked Keanu in his memoir. He questioned why wonderful actors like River Phoenix and Heath Ledger had died, but Keanu Reeves nonetheless walks amongst us. It wasn't a shaggy dog story. Perry doubled down and taken up Keanu again while speaking approximately Chris Farley's dying. The general public response became on the spot and harsh. Nobody may want to recognize it. Keanu had in no way labored with Perry or finished whatever to him. Perry attempted to provide an explanation for He stated he was a fan and that he just picked a random call. No person genuinely sold it. The assault felt private, sour, and out of nowhere. Keanu failed to respond. He by no means does. That's constantly been his manner. Quiet power. Even when the sector throws chaos at him. Through betrayals, heartbreak, death, and public insults, Keanu Reeves has persevered. He does not lash out. He doesn't crumble in the front of cameras. He simply continues going. He's built a profession and a legacy on surviving what would have damaged the majority.